Good afternoon. This is Michael Spice, and welcome to your monthly Rearview review, the recap show that keeps you up to date on all the top stories we covered in the past month. This one is sure to leave you feeling like a true news hound. Before we begin, we issue our first retraction. Any crimes discussed should have the disclaimer allegedly before the listed criminal charge or alleged court dealing. Volt News Network does not claim these crimes were committed and does not intend to interfere with criminal proceedings by influencing opinions of individuals. Here's a look back at this month's news right here on Volt News Network. Enjoy!
Good evening. This is Dante Steele.
Good morning. I'm Pepper Pierce with your wake-up call of top stories to watch today.
Good evening, this is Wade Watson. Grab a chair, this is your Roundup Rodeo on Volt News Network.
Good morning, everyone. This is Lucia Vega with Volt News Network.
Volt News Network.
Right here on Volt News Network.
Former President Donald Trump has been indicted by a federal grand jury today in connection with the January 6th investigation. This marks the first criminal charges against Trump in the ongoing probe into efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Former President Donald Trump pleaded not guilty in federal court today on charges related to his alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election results. This is part of the ongoing January 6th investigation. Former President Donald Trump may face a RICO indictment in Fulton County, Georgia over his alleged 2020 election interference. The courthouse has been locked and fortified on this breaking news.
Donald Trump, the former president of these here United States, has been indicted on criminal charges. Now, this is a real big deal, as no former president has ever been charged with a crime before. The charges against Mr. Trump include interfering with election officials in Georgia in 2020, inciting the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol, mishandling classified documents, and illegal hush money payments.
Former President Donald Trump just got slapped with another criminal indictment. This makes the fourth total for the Don. This time it's in Georgia, where he got charged with RICO felony racketeering related to meddling in the 2020 election. Prosecutors allege Trump and 18 others conspired to unlawfully interfere with the election results there.
Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis has announced a trial date for the Trump Georgia RICO indictment, as well as an arraignment date for the former president. The trial is set to occur on March 4, 2024, just one day before Super Tuesday. While the arraignment date is projected for the week of September 5th, former President Donald Trump is en route to the Fulton County Jail to be booked and arraigned on charges related to election interference. As of when this was recorded, the president's plane has touched down in Georgia, and he is going to be at the jailhouse at approximately 7:30 p.m.
Former President Donald Trump surrendered himself to authorities at the Fulton County Jailhouse in Georgia last night. He was booked, having his mugshot and fingerprints taken related to charges of alleged efforts to overturn the 2020 election results in Georgia. This made Trump the first former U.S. president to have a mugshot taken. His mugshot shows him unsmiling straight at the camera. Trump was booked and released on a $200,000 bond.
In an unprecedented event that is sending shockwaves around the country, former U.S. President Donald J. Trump was arrested and booked at the Fulton County Jail in Atlanta, Georgia on Thursday this week. He became the first president to ever have a mugshot taken of his likeness.
Attorney General Merrick Garland has appointed a special counsel overseeing the federal investigation into Hunter Biden, David Weiss, a Republican district attorney nominated by Trump. The selection of a Republican prosecutor is already creating controversy. Critics allege it shows improper partisan bias, while some Biden allies hope it brings credibility. The case against the president's son now enters a complex new chapter.
The prosecutor leading the probe into President Biden's son has now been granted special counsel status after plea talks broke down. This gives the Trump-appointed attorney more powers and puts the country in uncharted territory, with special counsels now investigating both the current and former president. The investigation has impacted Joe Biden's presidency and remains a priority for Republicans in Congress. Republicans launch articles of impeachment against the president. His son, Hunter Biden, appears to be entering a guilty plea in his gun and drug-related trial. This comes after a plea deal apparently broke down for that Biden and was appointed a special counsel for the investigation.
Overseas, Japan and China are reeling after severe storms. Typhoon Kanun left one dead and over 200,000 without power in Japan. In China, Tropical storm Doksuri brought the capital Beijing its heaviest rainfall in 140 years, causing deadly flooding.
In the Far East, China and Japan are still dealing with the aftermath of two giant storms, leaving the capital of China flooded.
Japan's meteorological agency reports that Typhoon Kanun is gearing up to batter South Korea as tens of thousands of young scouts and scout leaders evacuate the southern coastline. The International Scout Jamboree has to take typhoon-resistant measures as South Korea braces for the giant storm. Japan also will be affected by Kanun. And another typhoon, Lan, is forming south of Tokyo and could impact the metropolis later this week. Typhoon Lan is projected to make landfall over Japan's main island of Honshu tomorrow, just missing Tokyo. The powerful typhoon is expected to dump heavy rains and bring violent winds to central and western Japan. Transportation disruptions are likely, as airlines and bullet train services are already being canceled in preparation for the storm.
An absolutely massive storm is set to slam into the Los Angeles area and later potentially parts of Nevada on Monday. Once a tropical storm, Hurricane Hilary is looking to be an absolute shock to the normally dry area of the country.
Hurricane Hilary has intensified and is now a Category 4 hurricane with sustained winds up to 145 miles per hour. Fast approaching Baja California, flood advisories have been posted. It is projected to make landfall in California on Monday morning. However, its effects could be felt as early as Sunday. The storm is a huge one. Nothing like this has happened in close to 100 years in the area, as hurricanes usually get swept out to sea. The storm is about the size of the Yucatan Peninsula, yikes.
Hurricane Hilary is tracking faster than expected towards the coast of Baja California. Currently off the coast and battering Baja California, it is tracking off the west side of the peninsula and heading right for the Los Angeles/San Diego area. Storm warnings are now in effect, and officials are preparing for flash flood situations, with extreme flooding possible. Los Angeles, San Diego, and Las Vegas are all in the potential flash flood zone. Hilary is now a tropical storm, with winds at 60 miles per hour and a whole lot of rain to give. This is still a big storm for the area. Life-threatening flooding is still likely for tonight and tomorrow.
Tropical Storm Hilary seems to be winding down, with a more favorable outcome than experts were anticipating. The G-storm dumped lots of rain on the Los Angeles-San Diego area, but mostly spared these cities as it could have been a whole lot worse.
Hurricane Hilary, later known as Tropical Storm Hilary, has passed through Southern California, leaving parts of the state flooded. Areas like Palm Springs, California, and Lee Canyon, Nevada have received record-breaking amounts of rain, while other areas like downtown Los Angeles and San Diego receiving 2-3 inches.
Tropical Storm Idalia is predicted to become a major hurricane before it makes landfall in the upper region of Florida along the Gulf Coast of Mexico. Major hurricane in this context would mean categories 3, 4, or 5. For now, this storm is still just a tropical storm, but experts at the National Hurricane Center are forecasting storm surge up to 11 feet in some parts of Florida.
There's a storm coming, and experts say it will be a big one, potentially a Category 4 hurricane. It is projected to slam into the Gulf Coast of Florida come Tuesday night into Wednesday. Get prepared, listen to authorities, and stay safe. Although you Florida listeners tend to do whatever you want anyways, still we advise against trying to surf the hurricane waves.
Tropical Storm Idalia is now Hurricane Idalia as predicted. Hurricane Idalia rapidly strengthened overnight and now has maximum sustained winds of 80 miles per hour. The storm poses a serious threat as it barrels toward Florida's Gulf Coast. Forecasts show Idalia could intensify further, potentially becoming a major hurricane. Florida is bracing for a major impact from the hurricane, which continues to aim at the Gulf Coast. Residents are being urged to prepare as Idalia's winds are expected to affect a large portion of the state. A hurricane watch is in effect, and as you can see from the images, this is a fast mover.
We are watching this storm like a hawk. Hurricane Idalia continues to strengthen as it barrels towards Florida's Gulf Coast. The now Category 2 storm has maximum sustained winds of 100 miles per hour as outer bands begin to reach the state. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has declared a state of emergency and is urging residents in the storm's path to evacuate immediately, warning of a large and powerful hurricane with potential for catastrophic impacts. The National Hurricane Center predicts Idalia will make landfall on Wednesday, With life-threatening storm surge, damaging winds, and flooding rains spreading inland across the Florida peninsula, DeSantis has mobilized thousands of National Guard troops and said residents in coastal and low-lying areas need to get out now before conditions deteriorate. The conditions in Florida can be life-threatening. However, the governor made it clear that they were there to help Floridians.
Hurricane Idalia made historic landfall as a Category 3 storm over Florida's Big Bend region on Wednesday, bringing catastrophic storm surges up to 16 feet, winds over 125 miles per hour, and record flooding that has left over 50,000 residents without power so far. The hurricane rapidly intensified in the Gulf of Mexico in just 24 hours, before becoming the first major hurricane to hit the Big Bend area since Hurricane Easy in 1950, according to the National Weather Service. State and local officials have warned residents to evacuate immediately as Idalia continues its northeast track through Florida and Georgia, causing immense damage and dangerous conditions. We hope everyone that needed to get out made it in time, as this storm looks brutal with flooding.
Hurricane Idalia made landfall in Florida as a Category 3 storm, bringing high winds, torrential rains, and massive flooding. Flooding was extensive in some areas with over a foot of rain. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis declared a state of emergency and warned residents to take precautions. The hurricane is now moving inland, continuing to dump rain over Georgia and the Carolinas. In Tallahassee, a 100-year-old oak tree fell on the governor's mansion amidst the hurricane. Governor DeSantis' wife, Casey DeSantis, shared that she was at home with their 3 young children at the time, but no one was injured.
Hawaii is lucky this week to be dodging our latest hurricane, Dora, a Category 4 beast with sustained winds over 120 miles per hour. The massive storm, which is bigger than the main island of Hawaii, will miss the islands by just a few hundred miles over the course of the next few days. Phew, that was close. Hawaii has created an emergency proclamation as wildfires, strengthened by Hurricane Dora, rage across the islands. Thousands are without power, hundreds of acres have burned, and roads and schools have closed. Let's hope they can put out these flames.
In a sad turn of events, the emergency proclamation on Hawaii hasn't stopped the wildfire flames from engulfing the oceanside town of Lahaina on the island of Maui. Reports indicate almost the entire town destroyed, with survivors fleeing into the ocean. The hurricane-strength winds prevent any rescue operations at this time. Godspeed, Hawaii. Breaking news. Joe Biden declares Maui wildfires a disaster. FEMA has been mobilized to help with the assistance and recovery efforts. The president's action makes federal funding available to affected individuals in Maui County. Assistance can include grants for temporary housing and home repairs, low-cost loans to cover uninsured property losses, and other programs to help individuals and business owners recover from the effects of the disaster.
Meanwhile, the Hawaiian island of Maui has been battling devastating wildfires, now considered the deadliest inferno in the entire U.S. in over a century. Recovery efforts continue as the death toll keeps rising past 90, with hundreds more unaccounted for. It's a crisis in paradise.
The death toll from the devastating wildfires on Hawaii has now risen to over 90 people. Hundreds of homes have been destroyed in the blaze, which some locals and government authorities are referring to as a fire hurricane. A lawsuit has now been filed against Hawaiian power companies, accusing them of ignoring weather warnings, leaving power lines energized through the harsh weather warnings. Governor Josh Green has blamed climate change for having a role in this disaster, but conspiracies are swirling online about the true cause. In the Maui wildfire disaster, 2 key details have come to light that were previously just speculation. The power company, Hawaiian Electric, finds themselves in deep trouble as the civilian-led lawsuit. And the official fire reports show that the power company did not de-energize their lines, even though there was extreme weather in the area. A new report from a power monitoring company shows that this action is what likely caused the first of the fires, if not more, due to downed power lines. Scandalous. But what is truly mind-boggling is that the government could have sounded alarms with their intense emergency alarm system to warn residents of the blaze, but chose not to. From the government siren alarm page, here are some facts. Hawaii has the largest single integrated outdoor siren warning system for public safety in the world. The all-hazard siren system can be used for a variety of both natural and human-caused events. including tsunamis, hurricanes, dam breaches, flooding, wildfires, volcanic eruptions, terrorist threats, hazardous material incidents, and more. Did you catch that? A siren system made for wildfires. According to the Maui Fire Department, the sirens, if they were sounded, would have led the residents to seek higher ground because they are primarily used for tsunami warnings, leading potentially to residents walking into the blaze, seeking higher ground towards the mountainside. This whole thing sounds like multiple agencies not being prepared to use all the tools they had for the situation. The Maui wildfires devastated the town of Lahaina, but it seems the nightmare isn't over yet. Over 1,000 people are still missing. And with cleanup already taking place, it seems a mystery is forming as to where these people are. We pray they get found soon.
President Biden has begun his evaluation of the crisis in Maui. This presidential visit to the disaster zone comes 2 weeks after the disaster happened. While the president was delivering a speech to let the Hawaiians know that his administration would be there to help, the president couldn't help comparing the fires to the time where he almost lost his first wife and Corvette to a house fire. A little different, but okay, Joe Biden.
In an update on the Hawaii wildfire disaster, Maui County has filed a lawsuit against the electric utility Hawaiian Electric, accusing it of negligently maintaining their power lines. The county alleges Hawaiian Electric failed to de-energize power lines when notified of fires and did not adequately clear vegetation around lines. Residents on the Hawaiian island of Maui have been urged to take precautions amid toxic contaminants in the air following devastating wildfires that left 115 dead. The EPA has begun removing hazardous materials from impacted areas and warned of unstable structures, debris, and toxic chemicals in the ash. The Hawaii Health Department advised residents to avoid the burn area, wear protective gear during cleanup, and not drink the tap water even if boiled. Some volunteers have reported adverse health effects, like coughing up blood after exposure. Officials say the toxins pose a particular risk to children, pregnant women, and those with respiratory issues. The warnings come as Hawaiian Electric denied claims its power lines sparked the fires, now leaving behind arsenic, asbestos, lead, and other hazards. Maui residents just can't seem to catch a break. The BRICS summit is underway in South Africa. It is an economic grouping consisting of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. This grouping seeks to make deals and fix problems that economically affect the member countries.
At the BRICS summit in South Africa, both the leaders of China and South Africa promoted the expansion of the BRICS economic group. This comes on rumored talks of a shared currency, which will be debated and discussed into the future. Nothing has been spoken about so far regarding the currency known as the R5, but many member states have previously espoused support towards the idea. If adopted, this challenger to the world's reserve currency, the dollar, would shake up the entire financial system across the globe. We'll keep you posted.
Breaking news from BRICS, Iran and Saudi Arabia are set to join the Economic Bloc Union from 2024 onwards. In a giant and half-unexpected move, the two Middle Eastern nations are set to potentially join the union, seeking to use a joint currency in rivalry to the dollar. This is a big deal. The United States was just trying to curry favor with both of the nations, making favorable deals that have drawn international appeal. Experts are viewing the addition to the bloc countries as very strange and potentially inflammatory anti-Western behavior. Let's hope this BRICS Plus does not become a military alliance or exclusive economic bloc.
More countries have been invited to join the BRICS coalition as the summit draws to a close. With Iran and Saudi Arabia joining, Egypt, Turkey, Argentina, and the United Arab Emirates are invited to join the economic bloc. If any other countries join the union, this will massively shake up the economic powerhouse that the Western countries have been building in these regions for the past 40 years. With giant leaps in foreign policy being made in Africa, and large amounts of support among African nations to join BRICS, the union will likely be known as BRICS Plus, accounting for the extra nations added to the acronym. Environmental concerns are rising after Japan announced treated radioactive Fukushima wastewater will be dumped into the sea as early as this month, despite opposition. Critics warn of catastrophic risks. Local fishermen and local governments are voicing their disapproval for the Japanese government's decision to start dumping treated, irradiated water directly into the Pacific Ocean. Citizens in South Korea and China are also voicing their concerns as the Japanese government looks to move forward with the plan.
Japan has started their release of treated irradiated water from their Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. The nuclear disaster in 2011 produced tons of gallons of toxic water that had to be treated after they used a bunch of water to cool off their nuclear reactors to prevent a total meltdown. The countries and neighbors of the Fukushima plant are furious at their government for allowing the release of this water, as they claim that it is still dangerous and isn't being cleaned properly. China has banned all seafood from Japan, and there are rallies in Hong Kong and South Korea over the water release. The Japanese government maintains their position that it is safe.
Rogue dictator Kim Jong-un has fired his top general and ordered the rest of his military command to, quote, prepare for war. His brazen calls for more offensive capabilities comes after a press conference on North Korea's state media, in which the government called the tensions on the south border grave, while the South Korean government dismissed the dictator's words as empty threats and aggressive posturing.
North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un is looking to launch a spy satellite sometime in the coming days, potentially even today. The country has attempted to launch a satellite once before. North Korea launched a satellite on May 24, 2023, in a move that has been condemned by the United States, South Korea, and Japan. North Korea has launched 6 satellites since 1998, and 2 of them appeared to have been successfully placed in orbit. The launch is believed to be a retry of a military spy satellite launch that failed with a splash in early May. Let's hope this doesn't cause international nuclear tensions. The world is already too crazy. In a quick update, North Korea has failed again to launch their military spy satellite. They vow to try again.
According to U.S. officials, North Korea is secretly negotiating an arms deal with Russia to supply them with ammunition and other weapons. This comes as Russia is ramping up munitions production for its war in Ukraine. In recent days, North Korea has also test-fired multiple ballistic missiles into the sea, displaying its expanding military capabilities. The potential arms sale violates United Nations sanctions on North Korea, further straining its relations with the international community. However, North Korea is one of Russia's few allies willing to supply arms.
Russia just launched its first moon mission in 50 years, an unmanned rocket zipping off to the lunar surface to do some science experiments. It's part of Russia's plan to start a full-on moon colony with cosmonauts by 2040. With NASA and other countries aiming for the moon too, the new space race is on. Russian Space Command has lost contact with its Luna 25 lander. The mission seemingly has ended in catastrophic results after losing contact on its approach to the lunar surface.
India's space program has reportedly successfully landed a lunar lander device on the south pole of the moon. If confirmed by global space authorities, India will officially be the first country to ever land a craft at the south pole of the moon. India is the 4th country to land on the moon, after the Soviet Union, the United States, and China. The landing is important because the moon's south pole is a difficult target due to its rough terrain. However, it's a crucial location for finding water ice. Scientists believe that the ice could provide water, oxygen, and fuel for future missions.
Earlier in the week, we saw Russian craft Luna 25 crash into the moon, while the Indian craft Chandrayaan-3 landed successfully on the south pole of the moon, the first human craft to do so.
India's Chandrayaan-3 lunar mission has made important scientific discoveries in its analysis of the moon's south pole region. The mission's rover has confirmed the presence of sulfur, aluminum, calcium, iron, chromium, titanium, manganese, silicon, and oxygen. No hydrogen, a requirement for water, has been found using its laser-induced breakdown spectroscopy instrument. This provides new compositional data about the moon's surface near the South Pole, a key area for future lunar bases. While no water ice has been detected yet, the rover's sulfur finding and other elemental discoveries will help inform efforts to source materials locally on the moon.
President Biden is asking Congress for a whopping $40 billion in new spending, with $20 billion going to military and humanitarian aid for Ukraine. That's on top of the over $100 billion we've already given them since the war started. Makes you wonder how much is too much, right? That's a lot of taxpayer money.
The United States is sending F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine in what some would call escalatory measures. The fighter jets will be shipped to Ukraine from Denmark as soon as the pilots finish their training. Some analysts believe providing these advanced jets crosses a line and risks further escalation with Russia. However, supporters say Ukraine needs the aircraft to defend itself against Russian aggression.
Meanwhile, Ukraine is getting closer to obtaining fighter jets from Denmark to boost its air force as it seeks more firepower to resist Russia.
The leader of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, has stated that elections will not be held in his country unless the United States and other allies shoulder the cost of the election. The leader claims that elections held during a state of martial law are time-consuming, dangerous, and costly, and that they just cannot be done without further aid. Hopefully, we can find peace in this embattled country.
Breaking news. Russian military leader Yevgeny Prigozhin has been killed in a suspicious plane crash in Russia today. This comes after the leader led an uprising and threatened a coup to overtake Vladimir Putin just a few weeks ago. There are scattered reports of the business jet that he was flying on was shot down by Russian air defenses, and Russian state media reported within the hour of the crash that he was on board the downed aircraft. Whatever the case may be with this suspicious death, we know that there are major shakeups in Russian command. The United States and Australia are planning joint military exercises in the contested South China Sea. The US, Australia, Japan, and the Philippines recently conducted joint military exercises in the South China Sea near Manila. Regional powers are increasingly banding together to curb Chinese actions like blocking resupply missions and militarizing disputed islands. Let's hope this serves as deterrence and hope for peace in the region. America's credit rating has been downgraded from AAA to AA+ by Fitch. This broad economic tremoring is now rattling allies like Japan, as the yen plunged to a 24-year low against the dollar on the news. Moody's states it has banks under review for credit ratings of 6 large U.S. banks, including State Street, Bank of New York Mellon, and Northern Trust, for a possible downgrade, sending stocks tumbling as investors worried about more banking worries, as we have already seen the collapse of giants like Silicon Valley Bank this year. The U.S. 30-year mortgage rate has topped out at 7.48%, the highest interest rate in 23 years. The year 2000 saw mortgage rates this high, and the current rate is even higher than the 2008 financial crisis. In the 80s and 90s, we saw rates as high as 18%, but in some areas of the country, people are already paying 9% for interest on a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. This could have big implications for the already strapped housing market and future financials. In a major speech at Jackson Hole, Jerome Powell said the Fed's inflation fight may require keeping rates high for some time, even if it causes economic pain. The Fed chair said restoring price stability with inflation currently at 8.5% will likely require maintaining a restrictive policy stance for some time. His comments dashed hopes the Fed may pause rate hikes soon. Markets expect another large 0.75-point increase at the Fed's September meeting.
Well, that was a doozy. Make sure you tune in every single day for more updates on all the stories you can't afford to miss. Right here on Volt News Network. Good night, everybody, and have a great month ahead.